Well, hello my little beauties, it's David Connolly here, the web developer extraordinaire. I wanted to give you a quick update, a super quick update on how we're getting on with the rewrite of the Trongate documentation. As a reminder, we do have documentation at the moment, but it's not entirely complete. It's not quite as good as it should be, and I think that we can do better. So some of us have been working really hard trying to put together new documentation for the Trongate framework, and it's going pretty well. Let me just show you the screen for a moment here, and I can exclusively reveal that the most important part of our documentation is going to be this API reference section here. So the goal is we want to have all of the functions documented like this. So do you see how you get what's called a function signature? Then we've got a description, and then we've got a note of the parameters that this can accept, the return values, and then examples. We want to do this for every single part of this framework. It's a huge task and it involves a lot of work. I have to say a huge thanks to those of you who have been on board helping out with this incredible effort. And it's a massive job, and I especially have to say thanks to Gavin, who has done a whole lot of stuff for us here. And this definitely is a team effort. It has to be, because there's just so much work, you know. Now, where we are just now is that I think we've got all of the helpers documented. I might be wrong about that, but I think that we've got them all documented. I think the battery on this mouse is going, by the way. Apologies for that. I'm now moving on to the classes. So today I was focusing on the image class. Now the image class was written by a good friend of mine by the name of Derek McLean. He's an excellent developer. He actually contributed to the Zend framework at one time, just so you know, and he knows what he's doing. However, some of the syntax for the image class was a little bit different from what we're used to, and it never had the doc blocks, type hinting, and return types. No fault of his, by the way, but in any event, I've now gone through that and I've changed our image class. Not only that, but I had a little conversation with the employee of the month, ChatGPT, and the employee of the month was suggesting that there's a whole bunch of stuff in the image class that we could make public and just let developers use this stuff, because there might be times when a developer would like to know, for example, the width of an image or something like that. So if I take you to our documentation here and we look at class reference, now you can see that our image class is very complete, and there's a whole bunch of examples here. I mentioned image width. So if you want to get the width of an image, you can look this up and it'll tell you exactly everything you need to know in plain English, and it'll give you an example. It's all here and it's fantasticola. As for the class itself, well, if I show you the Trongate framework, here's our new image class, and you'll notice that everything has now got doc blocks, type hinting, return types. This is modern PHP, and unless I'm very much mistaken, Trongate is now one of only two leading PHP frameworks that has all of this. It's a whole lot of work, but I'm really happy with how it has gone, you know. Now, yesterday I was talking about how this is kind of a learning process for me, maybe for some of you. And it's interesting how when you do docs, it really gives you a chance to look at things sort of under the microscope. And yesterday I was discussing how I had finally, after all these years, settled upon a sort of crystallized definition of what a helper is. And it turns out that a helper function is a function that exists on its own. It's not part of a class, and it can be just called at any time, such as the anchor function, for example. Well, we're learning stuff every day, and here's what we've learned today. And again, for some of you, this will be really straightforward, but one of the things that I've learned is that yesterday I was talking about how there's no point in documenting internal methods. So if you look inside the bowels of the framework, there's all sorts of internal methods and procedures that none of us will ever access, but they're just there and they get used within the framework itself. Now, we're not going to document those because there's no situation where anybody would require that type of information. However, this introduces an interesting question. Well, how do you differentiate between something that you're going to document and say, here's what it does, and do the little pop-up window and all of that, and other stuff that you're just going to leave out because it's an internal thing? How is it that we decide? Well, it turns out, and for some of you, I'm going to be stating the obvious here, but it turns out that the key thing is all to do with this here. This, oh gee, I've heard different names for this. Scope declaration, access modifier, whatever you want to call it. But this public, private, and protected thing is really important. If it says private or protected, we can ignore it. But if it says public, it means that it can be accessed out with the scope of the containing class. And for us, what it means is that it's going to be documented here. So all of these are things, methods, I should say, that are declared as being public. That means that you can use them, you might not, but you could use them if you want, and they're all fully documented here. Now, that brings us on to the other thing that I was looking at today, which is the file class. Now, you'll notice that I've renamed this to upload X. This is a temporary thing. We don't have a function or a method even called upload X. But there's a little correction that needs to be done that I should make you aware of. So, as a reminder, we had made this thing, and I'll just do some typing, would say, check out the, and we would say span class equals rand str, and then we'd say something like check out the rand str function. Okay, so that's how we would write our documentation. We'd chuck the name of the function or the method inside a little span. Pardon me, the name of the class is feature ref. What was I thinking? Feature ref, that's what we would do. So that's how we write this, okay? Now, when we write this and we put it inside a class of feature ref, there's a little bit of JavaScript that does some magic and it figures out what should happen when somebody clicks the thing. So for example, here's one here where it mentions the out function. And if we click on it, it shows us exactly what the out function is and how it works. It's a really, really cool feature, okay? And by the way, I'll be removing this stuff soon. I don't want my name on this because it's a team effort, you know? So the way that that works, in the case of this one, it says Trongate Framework's out function. And if you looked at the source code, you would see that there's a little span, a class of feature ref, and then it does that, and that's it. That's how it works, okay? That's all you need to do. The challenge is that I've just realized we've got certain methods with the same name appearing in different classes. For example, the image class has got an upload method, here it is, but we've also got a file class that also has an upload method. That means, unfortunately, that this thing here, as good as it is going to need to be worked on somehow. I'll figure that out probably tomorrow, at least I hope so, and we'll have something a little bit more sophisticated to deal with those cases where we've got potentially conflicting names. So the goal for tomorrow is I'm going to turn my attention to the file class. Now, at the moment, well, with most versions of Trongate that you guys have got, there's only one public method inside the file class. But you know, I decided, why not make life a bit interesting, and we'll add some other things that people might find useful. So now we've got our upload class all fully commented in doc blocks and return types and all of that stuff. But check this, we've got a whole bunch of other things here that we've added that may or may not be useful. So now what you're going to have is, on our class reference, a beautiful image class with some stuff that may hopefully be useful. But when I fix that little thing that I showed you, we're going to have a beautiful file class as well. This is going to have all sorts of stuff going on. I think you're going to love it. And then we move on to the other stuff. So that's where we are. I don't really have any particular thing that I need done or anything at this stage. I think that the next thing is just finishing this. And when this is finished, the rest of this documentation is going to be really easy. If anybody's really desperate to get stuck in and help out for this next little part, one thing that would be really helpful would just be double checking the helpers here and just making sure that this is looking okay and we haven't left anything out. But I think we are okay. I'm happy with the progress and I'm going to continue with this. It's a whole lot of work, but once this is done, and I reckon it's going to take us a week, that is the API reference section. Once that's done, the rest of the docs is going to be pretty easy, because think how easy it will be to describe something, you know, like form validation or something. You'll just say, here you go, use this sentence or two, and we'll have everything referenced perfectly. So that's our update, and thanks once again for getting in touch, especially Gavin. The dude's done a whole lot of work for us, and I'm really grateful, and I know that everybody else is as well. Before I go, somebody had left a comment just a few days ago. I just caught it, and I can't remember the wording of the comment, but it said something like, maybe I should find it actually. Maybe not, but it basically said words to the effect of, come on, give us one of your either rants or contrarian opinions or something like that, And somebody was good enough to leave a comment like that. To be clear, I like being that guy. I'm good at it. But for this framework, it's important for us to now move into a different phase. It was necessary to be the ranting maniac. It got us 1,000 GitHub stars, and it sort of got this framework on the radar. But right now, I don't feel like doing any ranting, because I'm happy to let the code speak for itself. And that's all thanks to you folks. So stay cool. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.